Hi everybody, Dermot Keyes here with Enda O'Doherty to have a little recap and update on where things are at in relation to, ta-da, I'm Fine, which is thoughts on life, addiction, love and health, which is now available. And thankfully, when it comes to, as of Wednesday next, it will be available in bookshops where people can walk in and actually buy it themselves. So Enda, that's obviously a bit of good news.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm really missing an old takeaway or, sitting down for a meal, and with lots of things we want to celebrate in the family. And I was down in town today and I was saw the book center, and you can walk in and you can order the book, but you can't go in and, pick things up and touch them and browse. So yeah, back to normality, Dermot. But the great news is I really thought we'd sell maybe 10, 20 copies if it was being outrageous, my private thoughts, but it seems to really have exploded. It's caught people's attention all over the country, and it's flying. It's absolutely flying. As fast as I can put them in envelopes, some days they're sold out, which is great. I got another box in. I remember the video I posted the first day when the box of books came in. What wasn't on that video was me sitting there going, Jesus, how am I going to get rid of these now? But they went, and they've gone, and it just keeps taking a life of its own. It's brilliant. It's really good.
And it's after getting an awful lot of very positive and welcome publicity on a whole host of platforms, and it all kicked off on Ray Darcy's show, nationally anyway. Of course, Beat were very good to have you on the Sunday Grill or all or Apple initially, and then a few days later we're on with Ray Darcy.
Yeah, well, the last 10 days, I know, like a friend of mine was slagging me. He said, you know what? He said, if I turn on the telly, the radio, or the internet once more, and your ugly face is there, he said, I go mad. And it's, it did get huge attention. Ray Darcy's really, I suppose, caused major uproar altogether because, it's such a huge listenership. But it was a surreal experience. I was out in Carriganore, met the lovely RT crew out there, socially distanced. They brought me down to the studio, which is underground. They have no windows, and there was a very small room, and they left me there for 45 minutes before the interview. So by the time I spoke to Ray Darcy, the sweat was rolling off my back. I'm not great in small spaces. But it was a great interview. If you get a chance, you should go onto the Ray Darcy show and have a listen. I was a bit taken back with his first question. He asked me, when did you have your first drink? And he did, the Ray Darcy chuckle, and he thought he was very funny. And I think I shocked him back with the answer because I said it was with you, Ray. It was in Nijinsky's nightclub on the Curragh in 1986, beside the DJ box where he was working. Listen to Come On Eileen. But we had the Times, the Independent, the Evening Herald, the Evening Echo, the Last Word, the Hard Shoulder, the Sunday Grill, WLR, Southeast Radio, Spin FM, Galway Bay. Like, it's been non-stop, and I'm absolutely knackered at the end of it. But a weird thing, Dermot, is when you go to a pub or a restaurant and someone serves you and they have a name tag, I'd always use the person's name. I'd always say thanks John or thanks Maria, or whatever it is, But and then they pause for a second and they're puzzled because how the hell do you know their name? And then they realize you're wearing a name tag. I'm getting that with questions still. Someone will ask me a question about my dog, or something that someone I played football with in 1982, and I'm actually stumped and going, how the hell do they know that? And then you forget the people are after reading the story, But it's been magic experience. The publishers warned me when this came out. They said you really need to be well rested and well ready, and I wasn't expecting what was coming, even till we were just discussing there off air before we came on. So I did an American magazine last weekend, and I'll post it on social media so people can see the article itself. A really good magazine. Husband and wife who really want to promote good causes and good mindsets, and they've put together this digital media platform. But did the interview anyway. It went well. The photographs, they put them up in the article, but they have a monthly reach of 16 million people, and we were hoping for 6 to 20. I wasn't expecting 16 million people, but it's been good. And accordingly, then I'm getting messages from from America and from the UK, and the ripple effect is going outwards. And
of course, you were on the 6 o'clock show on Virgin Media as well, which is obviously a great prime time slot to be on television.
Yeah, that was mad because I've been on the 6 o'clock show twice, I think. No, once before. I was on the breakfast show a few times, but the mad thing is sitting in your own front room, terrified the dog will bark, or when the neighbours start knocking on the window looking for me, or the milkman will come looking for his money. You don't associate those with TV, or it's died down a bit. But I had a massive big Rudolph COVID nose from wearing the mask. I have a huge red lump in the end of my nose, and to be in the kitchen and my wife and daughter breaking their sides laughing, putting makeup on me and concealer on me, you know, before I went on TV. But do you know what I don't think people are aware too is that was a 9-minute slot on the 6 o'clock show with Muireann O'Connell. But in total for that, there was nearly 3 hours of an interview. So like they did 2 hours the day before and an hour on the day in terms of sound and light and what you were going to say and what questions. And what they do very often is the researcher will ask you literally 70 questions. And then if he or she likes a particular answer, or they, you know, they'll base their interview on that. So what you see on the TV is only the last, you know, the last bit of it. But I have to say it was very stressful. Like people were very nice. They were saying, God, you came across very calm and you were very natural. But I tell you one thing, I had to be peeled off the seat here. When I stood up, I was absolutely soaking with perspiration, you know.
It's probably a different sensation for you than it is for me, because it's really funny. Before you hit click there, you asked me had I read the book, and I said, I don't need to read the book. I wrote it. You know, I lived with it in a different way from how you lived with it.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was in my head. It's been there in the back of my head for quite a considerable period of time. But to a certain degree, for me, right now is a little bit like after the Lord Mayor's Ball.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done my bit.
Yeah.
You're the front man with this operation, very much so, because it is your story after all.
Yeah.
So you're still in the middle of all that. I'd imagine time has slightly distorted or blurred a little bit since the book was actually published in the first place.
Yeah, it has. You know, like a couple of times, like there's a lovely friend of mine, one of my bestest friends, the besties as she calls herself, Alva Conway, was working with me, was telling me she was in a shop in Kilkenny, and I hope she doesn't kill me for saying this now, but she saw the book on the shelf and she was talking to the lady in the bookshop, and she said to the lady in the bookshop, you know, I never thought I'd be on page 3 and be happy about it. And she is on page 3, but a couple of times somebody will say to me, you know, did that story make it in, or such a story make it in? And actually, to be honest, I have to go back into the PDF file I have. I type in John Murphy or whatever, you know, the issue was, or dog, or whatever they were talking about, and actually see where it is in the textbook. Because, you know, there was the conversations we had, which I think probably would have filled 4 times the book we had. Then there was what we wrote, then there was what made the edit, and then there was the things that keep coming back to me that I wish I'd said. So there's a fair it's a fair amount of information, you know. It's you know, someone said to me recently, they were talking about Kilimanjaro, and said, God, I can't believe how long it was, the years have passed. And honestly, because I've been speaking about it, because we've been writing on it, because we've been working on this book, all of it feels like 5 minutes ago. You know, it's been incredible. And I think too, what I noticed is, you know, I'm so busy at the minute that the days are just gone in a blink. You know, I'm out of the bed. I'm in work, I'm on the phone. You know, I was sitting in the car park outside school there the other day, and had a free class, and I was doing a radio interview for I think it was Today FM for one of the Saturday morning shows, Alive and Kicking, and I had the headset in. You know, I was on Skype because it was quite clear in the car. But I could see different colleagues coming over to knock on the window, you know, to ask you something, like they would, you know, you okay, you're sitting in the car, you know, and I'm sort of frantically waving, like trying to get them to go away, because I was waiting for this tip, tip, tip on the window, and then I'm talking, you know. But like that's mad to do that and then go straight back in and be doing, you know, igneous rocks and sedimentary rocks and go back to the real world, you know. But it's good. It keeps you grounded too, you know. Kids in school are funny. I've had loads of kids say to me, sorry, are you on the television? Or, you know, you have a book out. And I instinctively would say, no, God, no. And they say, no, it definitely was you. And I'd say, no. I said, you know, there's a lot of fellas now that are losing their hair and have a beard. There's an awful lot of us in Waterford. I said, there's probably a fella that looks like me, you know. But they usually get a laugh out of it, you know.
Well, that's where we can't be mistaken for looks. I suppose, look, as well, I mean, this is the time of year when, if you ask anyone at all that's involved with books, this is the time of year when most books get sold.
Yeah.
So if someone had said to us several months ago at the outset of all this, in terms of actually securing a publisher, that the book would be out before Christmas, I think we both at the time would have been incredibly optimistic but delighted at the same time. So the fact that it got out there before Christmas is obviously fantastic. I think when it comes down to it, neither you or I would have really cared all that much when it came out, as long as it did. But the fact that it did come out before Christmas is obviously a bonus.
Yeah, I think, you know what, I think one of the things I've learned is not to raise your expectations too high, and then, you know, when good things happen, really celebrate them. Like I literally got the cover of the book, put it in the frame of the sitting room, and I was happy at that, because to like like the amount of effort that you and I put in to get that on a shelf is just astronomical. Like I have no idea. I'm actually supposed to speak to someone this afternoon who's trying to launch a book, and like the first thing I'll be telling her is, you know, be sure you're well rested and you have a lot of coffee in the house, because it's no easy task. But I'm just happy to get it out. Do you know, Dermot, years ago I remember when I did my first marathon or so, I used to be really intent on would I finish, and it was only with a bit of wisdom and experience I realized the finish line's not where you celebrate on the start line, because to get your body fit enough to run 26 miles, to be injury free and not pull tendons or knees or ankles or something and get to the start line is an achievement. And the same with Ironman. Like I used to be wondering constantly, could I finish an Ironman? But like I had contentment and happiness on the start line of Ironman that I can only describe as just paradise. Like I remember being in Sweden and looking out over the Baltic Sea, getting ready to swim with 2,500 people and just feeling complete tranquility because I had arrived at what I wanted to do, and the day just went so smoothly. But the same with the book, like, you know, I'm to get it to a shelf. You know, I was saying to you there before we started that, you know, one of the most fantastic things about all of this has been the feedback. You know, I got emails from people that you just couldn't believe. You know, like there was a man sent me an email who had two brothers, one older and one younger than him, and he lost both of them to suicide. And he said, you know, he felt the book was such a powerful read, and he felt, you know, sad at their loss, but he said he was happy reading it, that he knows this book and these kind of messages and that mindset will save someone's life and make a difference, you know. And it's lovely when you get messages like that, you know, really kind messages. Like I'm sure there are people that can't stand me or this book isn't their cup of tea, but you know, I think in probably whatever 5 or 6 years I'm doing this, I think I've had like one nasty, vengeful message, you know, but 99.9% of people, you know, get what I'm doing and like what I'm doing and are supportive of it, you know, and that's why people are buying the book for themselves or they're buying it for friends and family, you know, and it's a great thing, you know. It's a magic adventure that we're on, isn't it? Like, did you ever believe that we'd end up having these conversations, or, you know? It's great.
Funny enough, I did.
Did you?
Yeah. And as that's not to try and sound arrogant. It may sound arrogant, and maybe it is, but I just, after the first few in-depth conversations we had about the idea of doing this.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. And the more you spoke, and then the more I wrote, and between handwriting stuff into my, and funny enough, that moleskin notebook is inside in my desk in the Waterford News and Star.
I thought you were going to say it's inside in the granary,
which I haven't sat in. I haven't sat at that desk since the end of March, so I'll have to retrieve it and box it away.
Yeah.
But the more I wrote and the more I listened and the more I digested, I kind of thought this is really good. And I suppose possibly what made it easier for me to make that conclusion was the fact that I was writing someone else's story. I wasn't being self-judgmental of something I myself had said and then written.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's generally what I've done for 21 years as a reporter anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, and an awful lot of the time, the story is what is said between the lines. And sometimes what's not said one day is what's said the following day. And it bobs and weaves itself into a nice, big, long, taut rope. And this again became something that we could actually both put our hands on and pull, and it didn't give way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, I didn't go into a naive either, like, because I know how difficult it is, the experience of other people far more talented than myself who've had difficulties with getting books published. And, you know, so it actually being published for me, you talk about the marathon, that for me was the finish line. That was the moment I could actually kind of just exhale and say, I can breathe easier now. My bit of this is done. And then you've had all the stuff that subsequently followed. Funny enough, I did notice as well on my own blog, I'm hopeful, I noticed one person from Tanzania had a look on my blog in the last few weeks, and I can't help but thinking, is that because I had something about Tanzania in reference to you being out there?
Maybe they're in the book. There's a couple of Tanzanians mentioned.
But it's just very interesting. I mean, like, I know the book has been read in America and it's in New York and a couple of other places, and it's just, it's quite validating to think that people are reading what we worked on in such far and disparate places. And I mean, that in itself is the triumph as well. Like, if the book sells 500, 5,000, 500,000, to be honest with you, it's irrelevant to me. It being published was the finish line. So it's great it's out there and people are now making their own conclusions about it. And thankfully, anything I've heard back about the book so far has been overwhelmingly positive, which is great. Great
Yeah.
validation in itself.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit dazed. I mean, like I was getting a takeaway the other night, and the person serving me the takeaway asked me could they take a selfie, and so I'm standing with my chips, and they took a selfie, and I was like, what the heck? Like, it's sort of bizarre, endless celebrity, you know. Or like I've had a couple of people do that Irish thing where they walk up to you and they go, "Thankfully, I'm wearing a mask, so they can't recognize." But someone say to you, "Is it yourself?" And I'm like, of course it's myself. Like I've always been myself. Like who the hell am I? Do you know?
Which yourself though? Was it the fellow who's seen walking off the steps of the High Court last week, or was it someone who was on the Late Late Show? It's important to make the difference.
Yeah, I know. Like, do you know what? It's. But I have sent someone. It's like there's like two different people. There's Enda that you know, or Enda my family or friends know, and then there's your man on the telly. It's like I hope I'm not developing like some sort of personality disorder, but I'm separated from the two. Like I can watch something on TV afterwards or hear a podcast and go, God, that was good. He did well there. And it's nearly not me. Do you know? It's weird. It's really, really weird. And it's I thought I'd be getting calmer as I went on. I'm getting more nervous. Like, I mean, I didn't sleep the night, you know, you were talking about that 6 o'clock show, and I didn't sleep for about 3 nights before. I was climbing the walls.
And why do you think that is? Why
Maeve
do you think you're getting more nervous?
Maeve says because you care. And she said that's what makes it good. That's why it works. She because you've got the adrenaline and you've got the passion and you care. She said if you didn't give a damn, if you were sitting there and you were cool out, she said it probably wouldn't go as well and it wouldn't mean as much to you. She would always say, like, I mean, I did last year, a couple of years I would have done, I don't know, I've lost track how many public speaking events, and the one by far I was most nervous, like I mean terrified, was in the Tower Hotel for a walk for Noah's Wish to Walk. And I said to Maeve, I said, why the heck, it's a charity gig, like it's, you know, and it's 2-minute drive, get up in the tower, blast it out and go home. And I said to her, why the hell does it feel so bad? And she said, it's because it matters. It's on, you know, your dad is there in the audience and your kids are there, and, you know, people that you train with or friends or people you work with are there, that it matters, you know. And it's, it gives you extra fuel and extra energy, but it gives you extra stress too, I tell you that. They said to people, Dermot, there's a reason I'm always wearing a navy jacket or a dark jacket, because you don't have those giant big sweat stains going down the side of the suit. They're camouflaged.
Yeah, and I suppose the fact that you're kind of at almost out the other side of the heaviest part of promoting the book now means it's almost getting to the stage where this particular publication is like your child at the school gate.
You have to let it go.
4.5, and you're leaving your hand go, and the child's not going to look back. Ideally, goes into school, and suddenly a whole new world opens up. The book now has got a life of its own, and you and I are not going to have to say, in all likelihood, a great deal more about it.
Yeah.
Which is quite satisfying in itself. It's going to speak for itself now.
It's true. It's true. I think, like, I spoke to Michael Brennan, who owns one of the owners of the publishing company, and he said to me the other day, like, you know, from a mental health point of view, you want to mind yourself now the next few weeks. And I said, why? And he said, because, you know, you've had this massive high, this huge amount of interviews and pressure, and now, you know, you're going to have very down, quiet time. And, you know, he said it like that. He said it takes a life of its own. But it's really interesting because I know you'd have written about it, but like one of the triggers for me is someone to tell me I can't do something or something won't happen. Like, you know, you'll never get a car, or you'll never get a sponsorship, or you'll never get to Kilimanjaro, or you'll never make that amount of money. And away, that just like something flicks and away I go. So he said to me, you know, it's going to get very quiet now, and you know, you have to allow it to drop off. And so within a week I rang him back and said, Mike, look, I'm after getting into a magazine with 16 million people in America. And, you know, there was a company inquiring about media, you know, rights or information about the book and the story. And yeah, my natural alcoholic obsessiveness will allow me to keep hammering this. It'll allow me to keep at it. You know, there'll always be something there for me. Like, I mean, the second this is over, it'll be book 2 or book 3, or it'll be an adventure. Like, it wasn't just something we wrote for the sake of writing it. Like, I genuinely believe that, you know, the average person watching this lives 28,000 days. That's why I was out of bed at 5 this morning, had breakfast in bed, watched the documentary, went and bought some clothes in for my wife's mother. She's in a nursing home up in Portlaoise, and you know, I'm been working away here on the computer. I'm writing a blog. I'm doing a radio piece for KCLR. I'm busy, you know. So you're right. It does take a life of its own, but I think I'll be that clingy daddy. I'm not. I'm going to hold on for as long as possible, you know.
When my child has gone through the gate, and I'm already thinking about when she'll be at college. That's my attitude. But that's probably why it's worked, because there's a bit of a dynamic between the two of us, and I think it was very helpful in putting the book together and trying to sort out the wheat from the chaff, because there was so much more that could have been published. But for me, I think there's enough there. And the other thing as well is, what did it say, is keep them wanting more. There's always a possibility we might do something else down the line as well. Who knows?
Yeah, the adult version, the hardcore, the X-rated version. Yeah, there could be that one. Like, I mean, it's funny. You know, people who were in Kilimanjaro and people who've done the walk from Belfast to Waterford were, you know, some of the first people to read this. And the number one line I hear from them is, they say, "And you never said the bit about, or you never told that story." And I was like, "Oh, geez, yeah, no, we couldn't put that in. We couldn't." So maybe you're right. Maybe there's a sequel somewhere along the line. But look, do you know what? It's just magical, and I'm just happy to be where we are. And I am so grateful for the support that we've had, you know, and for the friendship that people have shown, and the energy that people have given the project. You know, like, if you buy the book, it's fantastic, but if you click like, it's fantastic, or share one of the posts, or, you know, tell a friend or a colleague about it, or share one of the podcasts, you know, like, this project wouldn't have got the life it's got without people taking ownership of it and realizing that it's not just really my story. You know, it's the story of so many people who have struggled with their mental health and are struggling, and or no family or friends that they'd love to help. And I think that's given it an energy on its own. And I'm really grateful to people for the support.
So, Enda, if anyone wants to buy this fine publication, you might just give anyone watching who hasn't heard about this book yet a few contact details there.
Yeah, well, you can definitely buy it from endaodoherty.ie. It's also available on Orphan Press. And as I've done interview after interview, Dermot, you know, you start, you know, it's like repeating times tables. You get into a routine. My favorite line to say, that I'll say the whole time to people, is you can get almost anything you like on the internet, but you can't get local jobs. You can't get smiles. You can't get community. So, you know, from when we entered phase three this week, go into your local bookshop and support them, and treat yourself to a couple of chockies as well, and a nice cup of coffee, and put your feet up, put your Santa socks on, and read this book. And we should have put a health warning on the sticker on the book. We should tell people, be careful with hot beverages if you're reading this book, because you could drop it crying or you could drop it laughing, because it's a good mixture of everything, you know.
Well, great to talk to you again, Enda, and we'll have to meet in person again sometime soon. We haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks now at this stage. But
what you're too professional to say, Dermot, is that you're finishing this and you are on your way to Croke Park to see the mighty Dacia, please God, win a place in the All-Ireland final. And I'm so jealous. It's like Richie Rich, or you know, you've got your own private stadium and your own private match. But listen, go and enjoy it, and thanks for the time. Thanks for taking the time out to do this today.
No worries, Enda. We'll talk to you again soon.
Talk to you soon there. Bye.